Disney has removed the storyline of the trans character from its new animated series, and for the first time, an almost truthful statement has been dropped, which reveals what Disney is really about. And what does this have to do with the growing loneliness of heterosexual men with disappointing dating experiences from straight women, and why this move should be a warning shot to all of us? We've got a lot to get through, so let's dive in. Okay, but what actually happened? Disney's new show, Win or Lose, is about the Pickles, a teenage softball team that is 1 week away from the championship finals, and it takes a look at this period from different perspectives. It was also planned to feature a point of view of a trans girl from the group, but her struggles were cut.
Disney, you never cease to shock me. There are softball championships?
I'm just as surprised as you are.
Ooh.
The storyboard for this scene was leaked on 4chan, showing in a moving and empathetic way what it's like to feel alienated in your own body and to live in constant fear of how the outside world could react. Disney defends its decision with a statement. When it comes to animated content for a younger audience, we recognize that many parents would prefer to discuss certain subjects with their children on their own terms and timeline.
Sounds reasonable. And how exactly do you talk about a topic you know nothing about because you prefer to push it away instead of letting people who lived it explain it to kids in a child-friendly way, just out of interest?
That's a good question. Chanel Stewart, the voice actress for the affected character, happens to be trans herself. Her mom had this to say.
There may be some parents out there who are not ready to have that conversation, but this is the world that we live in and everyone should be represented. Everyone deserves to be recognized.
It's not the first time that Disney has caused this kind of controversy, am I right?
Nah, man. But after all the fuss with Luca and the Inside Out 2 leak, Disney is finally admitting there won't be any queer heroes from us. And the reason they give in their statement is actually half true, because it's indeed about the parents. However, it's not about when they're ready, but rather the question, what kind of child would they want to have? Because Disney sells the perfect mold, suitable for any parent.
What? They sell cyborg children? That's almost as shocking as the softball league.
I think the best way to explain what I mean is Disney's evolution. Even though Disney has brought a wide variety of stories to the big screen over the decades, it has been one brand that people most strongly associate the company with: princess movies. These not only generate the highest box office revenues, but also through merchandising, streaming, etc. And apart from The Lion King, stories with male protagonists have clearly been outstripped by the princesses. As the head of Disney, I'd be pissed too, if all the money that Mulan ended up grossing was swallowed up by Atlantis and Treasure Planet.
Well, I'm sure the shareholders weren't too smiley either.
And they play a big part in our story too. Since Disney went to the stock market in 1957, it's been important to keep shareholders happy. As a result, two things were very important early on: profit optimization and a good image.
Duh! Who takes kids to see a film when the filmmakers have questionable values?
Exactly. But what are questionable values? Well, that changes over time. During the company's comeback around 1990, progressiveness came across really well. Strong princesses instead of one-dimensional stereotypes paid off for Disney because they got parents to cheer and brought families back into the cinemas.
And so 20 years and a few flops later, they just assumed that what worked in the 90s will surely work for them again?
And it was a no-brainer. Between 2010 and 2016, society experienced a liberal high that brought us enormous progress in terms of acceptance, inclusivity, and world openness. Rapunzel was the perfect fit as a more evolved princess reboot. However, Disney evolved as well and now became a capitalism pro. They know that every era comes with risks that must be recognized
and eliminated.
Yeah. For example, that appearances can be deceiving, and not even back then were all so liberal. So yes to queer moments, but only small and insignificant ones so that the conservatives won't freak out, and at best those scenes can be completely cut out for homophobic countries so that their millions can be pocketed too.
Are you telling me that the first exclusively gay moment of a key Disney character in the Beauty and the Beast remake was small and insignificant?
I know. Without that, the film practically doesn't make sense. Another way they figured how to maximize their sales was to cater to Disney's strongest target audience:
children.
Parents. And in that new era, this meant making films with strong, unique outsider characters that appealed to both girls and boys. The hope was that this would make everybody happy. Traditional masculine heroes disappeared, as the image was too strongly associated with toxic masculinity. Which in my opinion is nonsense because Disney's male heroes have always been the opposite of that. Of course, toxic masculinity played a role in many stories.
What if they find out I'm not really a prince? What if Jasmine finds out?
But it was always an obstacle that had to be recognized and overcome by the hero.
I gotta stop pretending to be something I'm not.
Well, that's actually a really good message for little boys.
Instead, contemporary, modern female roles took the center stage. Quirky girls who become strong women through self-discovery, with desires and interests.
And non-threatening, nerdy outsider men with knob noses. Seriously, is there a nest somewhere?
The balancing act worked out so-so.
What?
Well, because Disney fails to resonate with people
You can say dads.
who are looking for classic masculine role models. They spend their money elsewhere, so
Disney throws money at it?
that's always the answer. Investing to make even more money. And that's because of the shareholders! By incorporating Marvel Entertainment and Lucasfilms, Disney can do what it has long dreamed of: neatly separate its target audiences. While Disney animations have a strong focus on princess and family films, Marvel and Star Wars are all about world-saving adventures and hero stories full of action and combat.
Okay, sweet. All bangers, no skips, because you know what you're getting, so everyone's happy, right? From the look on your face, you're obviously not.
Everything is optimized for the maximum profit. What will sell will prevail. Blech. But it's the consequences of these thoughts. Because nowadays, it's no longer the brave stories that are being told, the ones that we really need, but those that sell best and don't rock the boat. They're mostly based on nostalgia.
Ah, the remakes, the reboots, sequels, and prequels.
Because they remind us of a time when we were younger and everything didn't seem so complicated.
Hey, when the world is on fire, I'd rather have coziness than social media angst. Back to childhood.
And people will pay a lot of money for that kind of feeling. A lot of corporations know this, in addition to Disney. However, you have to know the rules of nostalgia. You can't make it too woke, not too adjusted, not too different, and not too modern.
Otherwise, fans will tear it apart like the Hulk in a pair of jeans.
After all, most people want to go back to their childhood days and not see the world of today.
Like with all the annoying people who no longer keep their mouths shut when they see injustice like before.
Exactly.
Huh?
It's better to take the morals and simplicity of the past and hit copy-paste.
Okay, I can see what you're getting at.
Capitalism has no morality. Whatever will sell.
Will prevail, just like all the soulless remakes that have nothing more to say.
And that leads to creative stagnation, because the stories they tell us aren't the ones that challenge us and push us to grow, not the lessons we draw from the contradictory word.
But rather, what is comfortable.
Yeah, and now we've arrived at the bottom line of the Disney statement we read. It's about the parents. And only them, because kids have no money. Disney sells wishful thinking to parents, based on their nostalgia, the fantasy of a childhood they want for their own kids. And it's tailor-made for every target group. Parents who want a role model for their girl that is strong but quirky and funny and rises above herself get Disney's modern princesses. And parents who want an adventuresome boy can feed him Star Wars and superheroes who save the world. But these fantasy worlds created by parents are not only in sharp conflict with each other, but also with the reality in which their children grow up. Just imagine. A girl is given her mother's dream vision in the form of Disney movies, in which men are no longer portrayed as heroes, lovers, or partners, but instead as dumbed-down, one-dimensional characters who only exist to support the development of the female protagonist.
Without any dreams or desires of their own.
Day is night when you're not there.
And then this girl goes on, grows up, and meets a boy who was raised instead with his father's Disney-tailored dream vision of, I'm the hero, and women are either hot temptations or the one that they have to save and protect, but to whom they can't be completely honest. These worlds are over-the-top echo chambers, where you only hear the things that comfort you. That leaves no room for bridges, for communication, for complexity and intricacy. No room for women who, in addition to self-determination, saving their families, and fighting, also want to fall in love without coming across as weak. Or for men who are cool, strong, and masculine superheroes, but who don't have to cope with everything on their own, and whose solution is always power and violence.
Okay, so the reality that boys grow up with is so different from the expectations that girls are raised with.
And it's frustrating for both sides. Boys become more receptive to alpha male TikTokers, misogynistic Sigma and incel forums, and girls are less and less keen on going on dates because the guy isn't some kind of Kristoff.
Okay, what's your problem with Kristoff?
Dude, that Nick Nelson fantasy really rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, you don't say.
My point is, Disney takes the old blue and pink cliche box and fills it with the opposite messages for the maximum amount of profit. And we pay the price as a society that becomes more and more estranged, with truth being erased. We get distorted realities that parents end up buying like products, and then they push them onto their children.
Funny. I always thought it was the evil queers brainwashing the kids.
In these kind of extremes, princess or superhero, girl or boy, black or white, there's no room for shades of gray and queerness. What was progressive back then is becoming more and more conservative because we stand still and look back while the world keeps on spinning.
Exhibit A.
And deviating from the norm becomes a financial risk and thus disappears. Now, we all know that the world is neither Mummy's strong girl fantasy nor is it Dad's hero action dream. But the kids don't know that. And one major indication that we are not seeing the world as it really is right now is the absence of queer realities. And if you don't see us, you don't have to help us. We notice that our allies are falling apart. We notice that the willingness to just let us live and to listen to our stories is shrinking.
The U.S. State Department has removed TQI+ from its section on travel advice. On the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's website, it states that the CDC's website is being modified to comply with President Trump's executive orders. Many web pages that previously contained data on transgender and LGBT health now contain page not found.
Wokeness is trouble. Wokeness is bad. It's gone.
And people eat this shit like it's candy because they no longer have the capacity for empathy and understanding in the face of crises and their own problems.
Yeah, it sounds pretty tempting. Every day is Disney Day. Coziness and stagnation just like in 1937. Oh, you know when Snow White hit the cinemas.
The trans girl in Win or Lose is now a straight cis girl, says 18-year-old Chanel Stewart. Well, problem solved. Identical story, but no identity.
Less win or lose, more lose-lose.
And that goes for everyone, not just queer people and women, for guys too. The Man Box study shows how stereotypical role models are responsible for high psychological pressure on men, which makes them less empathetic in relationships with women and in their friendships with other men too. The propensity for violence increases, as does the suicide rate. To spit on these facts and expose your own children to the same thing, no matter how romanticized the parents' view of their childhood is, because they would rather elbow everything away that challenges them, is not fair to the next generation. Look, I'm not Delulu. In the end, we'll win. History proves it. Tyranny will fall, freedom and acceptance will prevail because hatred and agitation are built on wobbly legs. That was the case and always will be. Otherwise, humanity would never have progressed. But we are currently suffering a pushback phase. This always comes after a period of freedom. Masses are moving backwards because populist and conservative parties are building a world based on fear in order to make it easier to control. Fear of change, because freedom always brings change with it. That's practically inherent in the word progress. But this fearful image of the world is just another false version that someone tries to sell. It's not the truth. And sure, for every queer child erased from Disney's fantasy world, there are 10 indie projects by queer artists who are working their asses off for visibility. But kids don't watch indie films. They are fed whatever is advertised the loudest, makes the most money, and dominates the cinemas.
And that doesn't automatically turn Disney into Darth Vader. They're just playing the game of capitalism. Everything has a price, even values and morals.
That's why we need to make ourselves seen. Tell queer stories. Say that we're here. Always have been, and always will be. In order to do that, my team and I have planned our first ever feature film, in Suckers, which a group of gay vampires, all from completely different eras of history, come together to fight fear and hatred and the seemingly invincible evil. Because they know things have been different before. Because they see how far we've come, and because they believe in the light of the world even in the darkest night.
The darkest night?
I've always wanted to say that. It's giving vampire vibe.
Is there gonna be a vampire softball league?
Oh god, not ever.
It would be really creepy.
Fam, check out the crowdfunding for the project and join us on the adventure that begins here and now.
Yeah, and we'll see you all on the other side. That is the crowdfunding page.
And until then,
Chew-wah!